Hello everyone and welcome to this week's Secrets of Flow. I'm Alexei Zheglov speaking live from my place in the city of Toronto, which is the capital of the province of Ontario, the largest in the country of Canada. Today is Friday, March 14th, 8 o'clock in the morning where I am. Probably a different hour where you are, and I'll try to make this Friday morning slot kind of a weekly occurrence. So it's a change from how I used to run it on a different time of the day a couple of months ago. Today our topic will be replenishment. In my recent episodes, particularly number 14 about the agility dashboard and number 15 about decision points, I called out the replenishment frequency as an untapped reserve of business agility. Once again, this is in the context of some kind of high-tech product business or perhaps a complex modern professional service that you deliver as part of your company's business. So let's take just one of these decision points, which is replenishment or commitment to start some work, and zoom in on it and look in a bit more detail what happens there and what problems worth solving we can find there and how to improve outcomes that you get in your business. So let's jump right in, and I just want to visualize the context a little bit, and that's a familiar diagram I showed you before in previous episodes. There's some kind of product funnel. There's some fresh ideas that are gradually refined, and we approach the point when we can really commit to start work. There may be multiple decision points in that funnel, and maybe even at some point we discard some ideas as not worth our investment. We may also reach the point when we decide that, we should definitely build this thing, as opposed to not building it. But there may be still an open question when the optimal start of work really is. But we're not talking about that point, commitment to doing, we're talking about commitment to start. At some point, we do have to actually begin work and increment our current work in progress. I also spoke earlier about the replenishment frequency, which is what that particular dial visualizes with a time scale of yearly to quarterly to monthly to weekly, daily to hourly, however you want to do it. And then downstream of this decision point of replenishment we're talking today is some kind of downstream delivery pipeline. That's your engineering process where you can actually build the thing right. And the thing is, the right thing because you chose what the right thing to build is. So let's talk about this act of replenishment, act of incrementing our work in progress, starting the new thing. Folks, you know what? I realized that in so many years of working at different companies and visiting various companies as part of my consulting business, I've never come across a situation that people come to the office and they have absolutely nothing to do. If anything, they are all too busy, they have too much work to do. They are even stressed out by it. They worry if they will ever get it all done. Right? And then I wondered, why was not? And then I realized, it's kind of a trivial thing, but somebody at some point, somewhere, made the decision to start that work. And if it wasn't for that decision, that work wouldn't be happening. Somebody decided to start it. So can we please go to that place at that moment and observe what actually happens there? Oh, and it seems to be a recurring thing, right? So it's not like all work that has started will occupy us till the end of time. When we're done with some of this work, the new work will come in because somebody somewhere will once again make a decision to start it. So decisions to start or to replenish our current work in progress are recurring. They happen with some regularity. They happen all the time. So let's go there and see what happens there. So I wanted to explore how people at various companies actually do it, decide to start work. And then something inspired me, and I realized, oh, you know what, I could actually adapt this thing and it could be useful. And it was surprisingly from somewhat a very different area of knowledge. It was the business model canvas. Let's just have a look here. Just want to show you, you can, like if you have been in touch with any technology entrepreneur in the last 10-15 years, you probably heard them speak about it. This is a very well-known tool a lot of entrepreneurs use to figure out their business model in their technology business. So let's just scroll down to see a bit more detail of this thing. So I just pointed my browser to the website strategizer.com. That's where the original business model canvas came from. So the business model canvas has a very simple structure. It consists of 9 areas. I don't want to read from the screen all 9, but they include things like, well, your cost structure, your revenue streams, your customer segments. And what's interesting, these 9 areas are organized in an interesting formation. It's not a 3x3 matrix, but it looks to me like almost like a map of the world. 9 regions on this chart have borders with each other, like countries on the world map. And when 2 of these regions share a border, that indicates the high degree of logical connection. So, for example, you're trying to reach certain customer segments. That's part of your business plan. Okay, well, the adjacent region is customer relationships, right? So what does that customer relationship really feel like? Another region is called channels, right? Are you actually reaching those customer segments using these channels, right? That's a question the business model canvas begins to ask you. Well, to state the obvious, there is a revenue stream which is adjacent to those channels. Well, how much revenue is this channel bringing you? And so on and so forth. And then I realized we could do something very similar for our replenishment observation and improvement. And I came up with what I called the replenishment canvas. And let me actually switch to the right window. Here it is. So it kind of looks very similar. It has also 9 regions in it, and once again, these regions border each other like countries on the world map. And every shared border means some kind of close logical connection. So it's a very simple tool, and it can serve 2 purposes. You can use it as a kind of a notepad whenever you observe an act of replenishment in the office. Maybe you are actually a senior manager making some kind of decision to start a new project. Well, You could use this as your notepad as you reflect on how you actually made the decision. Or if you want to change how such decisions are made in your company and you want to design a new decision-making experience for yourself and your colleagues so that altogether you run a better business, then you can again use it as a blank canvas and just gradually fill it with details what you'd like that decision process to be. So let's explore what's in this canvas and what 8 things I put in it. One of these regions is kind of trivial. It's just kind of a title. Okay, we are observing this sort of decision happening on this date in this product group or service group or project group under the guidance of such and such manager. The 8 other areas all have logical connections. So let's dive into that. So I'm just gonna move like this. So we're connecting 8 things here: people, information, options, procedure, timing, change, decisions, and duration. So what do I mean by this? In order to make some kind of decision, we need information. Where does the information come from? Well, some people happen to be carriers of that information. Maybe it's their job to know something that may be relevant to the decision we're making. All right, I need to ask a stupid question. Did we invite these people to a meeting? And maybe we forgot to invite them, and then, well, they're not there, and that means we are lacking some important information. Or maybe some people actually attended the meeting, but they didn't really bring any information that we really needed. So maybe they didn't really need to be there. And what if they actually didn't like being there? What if they felt like it wasn't a good use of their time? So just like that, we could tweak our design a little bit and change the group of people we invite to a meeting to make a decision like this. Let's have a look at options that we considered before making a decision. So did we actually drop some of the options? Or was it like this? We considered, let's say, project A and project B, and we decided to start them both. What does this mean? It means we didn't really make any decisions in this meeting. Projects A and B, that was a foregone conclusion. That was a decision already made before the meeting. Maybe we socialized that decision during the meeting, but we sure didn't make it there. We made it before. We need to find out when and where that was, and that was when the decision was really made. And we need to observe it, reflect on it, and make it better. Did the information we bring to the meeting they play any role in making the decision, or the information was about one thing, but it was not the options that we considered for making the decision? Well, in this case, we could actually optimize our decision-making process quite a bit by figuring out what information we truly need to make the decision and what information kind of fills the time and space, but we don't really need it. And maybe we can make our decision process more streamlined, our meetings shorter, and maybe we can do it with fewer people if there's less information to bring. So we can make our meetings less expensive. We can also increase engagement because we are not bringing people into the meetings they don't need to be in, and perhaps they don't feel good about it. All right, so if we, let's say, had 50 options on the table and we had to choose 15 of them, well, maybe we needed a somewhat complicated procedure for making those choices. If we had to choose 2 out of 3, well, maybe the procedure could be a lot simpler, right? Procedure that you use to make a decision could be anything. It could be voting, it could be by consensus, it could be a whole bunch of people simply bringing very clear, honest information about each available option. And then one person who is really responsible and accountable for it makes the decision by themselves. It's their decision only. Maybe that's the procedure. And let's take a note what that procedure was and whether it's a good choice given the kind of options, the quantity of options you need to consider, and the sort of decision or choice you need to make. So there's again kind of a logical connection here. Now, depending on how simple or how complicated this procedure is and how much information you need to take into account, you may need a different duration for this meeting. Sometimes it can take minutes, sometimes it can take an hour, sometimes it can take a whole day. So, but there has to be some kind of logic behind it. If it's a relatively simple procedure, everything relatively clear, you should be able to do it with less time. If there is a good reason to make that procedure more complicated, okay, well, then you may need more time. Again, to participate in this procedure, you may need to invite some people. And in order to present some of the options, you may also need to invite some people. Otherwise, you perhaps end up with a smaller and inferior set of options to choose from. As for the information you use to make a decision, it can change over time. And if it changes rapidly, well, that just means you need to be more agile in this business. And that means, again, this decision point should occur more frequently. And that's why I called replenishment and its frequency one of the reserves, one of the levers of business agility. All right. To summarize, and not to make this diagram overly complicated, and you can perhaps see now how adjacent areas on the replenishment canvas have these logical connections between them, and that's why I laid out this canvas in this particular order, making certain parts of it adjacent to others, like neighboring countries on the map. You may find some additional logical connections in your particular company, in the situations where when you typically make decisions to start working your business. So your picture of these logical connections may look a bit different. But I would encourage you to explore all such connections and look for disconnects, such as, all right, we made the decision, but we didn't really make the decision, right? Because basically the set of options and the set of outcomes are the same, right? So we didn't really choose anything. Or maybe we did choose, but the procedure that we use to make that choice is just overly complicated and doesn't really connect with the choice that is framed in a much simpler way. Maybe we didn't actually get all the options because we didn't invite all the people. Or maybe we didn't get all the information because we didn't invite the people who would bring that information. Or maybe we invited too many people because some of the options weren't really viable and some of the information was superfluous. And again, the timing, the rate of change of the information and the duration of time we use for this sort of meeting, again, may just not make logical sense. So I encourage you to simply observe what is happening, look for these 8 things in the decision-making process, in the recurring decision-making process. So there will be another time, and you will have another chance to make it better. And look for these logical disconnects, and then talk to your colleagues and explore ways to connect these things in a simple, logical way again. And with some practice, after a few cycles, you begin to make decisions that are presented in a simpler way. They are clearer. They're made with ease. And perhaps take less time, and ultimately lead to better outcomes. You get better at choosing the right thing to build as part of your technology business, and then your downstream delivery pipeline builds this thing right. It's a separate topic, of course, and then you deliver it to your customer, and that's that's basically your path to success. So this is pretty much it. All I wanted to say about replenishment. Today I've spoken for 21 minutes. I hope this gives you some good food for thought for the weekend and the week ahead, and maybe you will change something in your company as a result. Looking ahead to the next week and maybe several following weeks, I'd like to ask you about the choice of topics. So people reach out to me and they ask sometimes, okay, if I could cover this or that topic. And so I have 2 main ideas, and maybe you could tell me in the chat, or maybe just put it in the comments, or reach out to me by any other means. So the 2 things on my mind. One of them is experiencing flow in a simulation. There is a number of games available to do this. Some of them are quite elaborate, and some of them are very simple. Some of them take a few hours, and some of them take minutes. How to experience flow and how to teach your team or your colleague some important lesson about it, that they can stimulate their thinking and then they can get better at what they do. We could certainly consider that, and I could reflect on my experience running a whole bunch of these games in various situations with different companies where I either worked or served as their consultant or coach. And we can compare some games and simulations and their appropriateness for different companies and different situations. You might get some good advice out of that. So that's one option, one direction we could go in the next episode, or maybe even make it a series of a few episodes. And another direction could be go back to some quantitative topics around forecasting, around time metrics, forecasting deliveries, projects, and so on. And in particular, talk about the odd number 85 that is assigned some magical powers by some in the Kanban community and in the flow metrics and forecasting community. And I think that particular number and some of the methodological guidance associated with it has gone a bit too far without critical examinations. There's some valid points to it, and some of them need a serious revisiting and update. And I could certainly explore that topic, and again, it might take not 1, but maybe 2 or 3 consecutive episodes. So if you happened to watch this, maybe live, maybe as a recording a few hours later or on the weekend, please do let me know in comments or any message by any available channels such as email or LinkedIn. Thank you very much for watching, for connecting with me at this channel at the end of the work week. Have a great weekend and a productive next week. And until next Friday. Oh, I should probably say I want to stick to my habit of annotating this video with timestamps every minute or two. I know for some people it's too much expensive time to watch the whole thing, even if it's only 25 minutes long, 26 minutes. Some people just read those annotations and that's good enough summary for them. Some people just watch those 1 or 2 minute video snippets and that's enough for them. So I try to make those bits of information and insight available and accessible this way. So I'll probably do it again over the weekend, so I'll post those annotations, and sometime early next week I'll settle on a topic or perhaps a series of topics for the next 2 or 3 weeks, and I'll see you again next Friday. Yes, there's some comments I'm seeing in the chat about dependencies, so that's yet another productive direction, and we could probably spend not 1 but maybe 2 or 3 consecutive episodes on that as well. So thank you very much for that suggestion. So it's dependencies, it's simulations and games, and it's some quantitative stuff and the magic of 85 that we can explore. So that very well be maybe not 3 but 6 or 9 future episodes in the coming months. Again, thank you very much for connecting with me today, and see you next week. Goodbye.